Okay, great. I'm going to try to unmute you for a moment, okay? All right, hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar for tonight regarding the shipping and so on. Oh, come on, sorry. I'm just trying to, sorry, I'm going to open this Google slide here for you. So we have here with us tonight several of you, including our superstar FSM, Paul Keenan, and I know Annika Pint is on also. And Paul, maybe I could ask you to help a little bit in the background since you're attending regarding monitoring those questions.
Sure.
I want to make sure that you don't miss any valuable questions that we have from everyone. So I'm going to just start this. All right, so before we get going, I'd just like to mention a couple key things for you. When we run these webinars, there's usually lots of noise depending on where each attendee's location is, what their environment is, if you're at a Starbucks or you're at a school or you're quietly in your home. So to minimize the noise, we'll keep everyone muted, but you do have an option to select the raise your hand button or icon there, which will alert us to knowing that you need to say something and we can unmute you. Or you could certainly go into the chat box, the question box in the bottom right, and add in whatever comments you want. And then between Paul and myself, we'll be able to navigate those questions and bring them into the conversation. And additionally, if some of you are having any trouble with audio, what have you, you would still be able to call in. And if you go back to that email I sent you, we had the phone number so that you could call in the event that you did not have a computer in front of you. With that said, all of First Canada, myself, and everyone would like to say congratulations on making the World Championships in Detroit, which is in 9 days or less than 9 days. I'm going to mute my phone, sorry. Part of the purpose of this webinar is to try to make it as easy as possible for you for the shipping. I'm very excited to tell you that we've had a terrific partnership with Centerline, who is going to be the carrier for us, I guess you could say that. So once each team ships their robot, they're going to send it to Centerline. Centerline's going to take all the robots at once, take them on a truck, take them across the border, and within an hour they should be at Cobo Hall. And that would be this following Monday. So when you think about that, that's terrific timing. It'll be at the World Championships days in advance. And then after the World Championships, we finish on Saturday. They will be at Cobo Hall on the Monday to pick them all up. So realistically, Shepherd has not very much to do with our robots this year. And I'll explain more about those details as we go through the presentation. So I'm just going to chat for a little bit and explain a few things. And then please jump in by raising your hand or adding questions in so that we can make sure that we're paying attention to what your needs are. So I want to look at just a few basic agenda items here. One is the tracking spreadsheet that I've developed. And when I show that to you, I want you to look at that tracking sheet and indicate to me somehow if I've got your tracking number wrong, incorrect. I want to make sure that we know exactly what your tracking number is that's associated to each team, and which was provided to you in the packet that I gave you with the several sticky labels for the tracking barcode and so on. I'd like to look at a little bit of the documentation that was given out. Sometimes it's confusing, and there really is only 4 particular things that we need to extract from that document to make it helpful for you. And then just to reiterate the critical timeline and the process around the shipping. And as you can see, hopefully Mike Duramio is on with us, and Mike will offer some insights into the Slack group that he's created for us for the 2018 World Championship team from Ontario. And then we'll open it wide open for questions about shipping and any other topics related to the World Championships if you like. And here's the link for the Google or the Slack group. So I am going to give everybody access to this Google group, and you'll be able to click on this link here and gain access to the Slack group, which would be the communication tool going forward. As far as the Google form goes, it's only going to be used as a place where we can put documents so they reside there and then you can go in and out of there to select them at any time. And let me just now go to our documents here. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so I'm going to go into the Google folder, which is here. And what you can see here is basically what I was just presenting to you. And I'm going to go directly now into this Google, or the spreadsheet here, so that you can verify for me if your numbers are correct. Your tracking numbers, that is. So on the left here, you can see all of the teams. Now, these are not in any particular order, but they are according to the tracking numbers that I did hand out to you. So you can see, for example, 1305 has tracking number 1192-0.
John, if I could interrupt for a second.
Yes.
It's been pointed out to me by Brandon Bibick that your screen's not updating. We're seeing the documents, but not the files exactly. So when you were talking about that team, we can't really see that. Okay,
thanks for that, Paul. And I know somebody's frantically trying to call me 3 times. I'm not sure who that is. Let's let this thing boot up. I'm not sure why it would be slow. I'm on an actual Ethernet line. Well, you can see how slow it is loading up here. Paul, are there any questions or comments in the question box right now?
They're both the same. One's from Brandon, one's from Adam Bochek about that your screen seems to have frozen. They can hear you, but it's not showing the documents that you want to see.
I'm going to stop that one right there then. Let's see if we can unmute one of them and see if they can see the screen. Can you see it, Paul?
It's frozen. I can see the screen, so that's what both Adam and Brendan are saying.
Show screen.
So it's been suggested to email the link to the Google group to the people online. Well, now you're updated. So now I can see it, John. You can see the teams.
Okay, so I think
spreadsheet's opened.
I must have double-clicked the show my screen before. So again, I don't really need to spend much time on this other than there is a spreadsheet that's there. Please only edit your number if there's something that's incorrect, or better than that, send me an email and I'll update the spreadsheet. But these are all the numbers to this point. What this shows here on line 34 is that team 5036. I still have to actually hand them their paperwork as they left the tournament without us having that contact. But everyone else now has the paperwork except for one team that's in Windsor, Brad Awad. And what we're going to do with that team is Brad's in Windsor, so probably I'll connect with Brad to just hand deliver his robot to Centerline, if that makes sense. And again, please, everyone, just you know, raise your hand or put something in the chat box, and Paul will draw that to our attention, or to my attention there. All right, so I'm just going to go to this first document here that was in that package that I sent you. The one that says, do not lose this document. And it just really identifies some of the key items that you're given out, the way bill or the bill of lading, which really is the one where we put that FedEx tracking number on. And we're going to go through that in detail in a minute. I'll call up that spreadsheet. But these 4 steps are pretty straightforward. And but there are some discrepancies as we go through the documents, because headquarters sometimes sends us American information or documentation that does not pertain to us. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. But basically, you've got a bill of lading in that package. You've got a copy of one that has a bunch of arrows that shows you how to complete that. And yes, I'll show you that in a minute or two, which helps you identify how to complete that way bill. And then the consignee forms. What I want to mention about that to you, in the documentation that was hand given to you, the consignee forms do say centerline on them. In the documentation that's in this Google Drive, it says Shepherd. And those are the ones that headquarters sent us that were incorrect. And I'll explain that a little bit further as we go along. But it does say on the bottom here, any questions, to call this headquarters and ask them for assistance on this. I might recommend that I'm going to be just focused on this over the next 2 days. If anybody needs specific help, I'm happy to work directly with you to try to solve or mitigate any of the problems. So this would be an example of the correct consignee form here, as you can see, the one that says centerline. And, you know, typically you would send 2 different forms like this. You'd send one on the way there, and then you'd have ones that are going to be the return address. At this particular moment, what you're going to do is you're going to fill this, you're going to send 2 of the centerline ones, because it's going to come back to centerline on your behalf from Cobo Hall to centerline on the Monday the 30th. And then centerline is going to then, you will arrange for that to be picked up from centerline to go back to your home school. So typically you would have that robot back within 2 to 2.5 weeks from this date right now. I might advise you to slip in the back of that form another consignee shipping address with your actual address in school where it's going to. And that might be something that would help. And I'm going to, Paul, can you go on that in the attendee and see if Mike DeRamio's there? I want to unmute.
Yes, he is. Mike is there.
Unmute him so he could chime in at any time.
Sure.
Please, thank you.
Done.
Great.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Mike. So I'll just look at this document now. A couple key things I just want to point out about this. So again, the bill of lading, as they say here in step number 1, that once you complete it, to scan the document, and as you're shipping it, you're going to send a copy to first headquarters. You know what, it wouldn't hurt to either send me a copy or perhaps deposit a copy of that form into the Google folder. And then that way we have a way to have additional materials to support you in the event that something goes wrong. I don't anticipate any problems this year. But last year we waited until the problems occurred before we asked for documentation. So it's far better to get that in advance this year, I believe. There was a couple questions at the tournament about how many forms, consignee forms do we put on the crate? How many stickers do we put on the crate? It's always advisable to put 1 on each side of that crate. And you have enough stickers anyway, so you might as well do that instead of just thinking 2 sides. The robot crate, there's a lingering question out there with headquarters, still about 60 inches height versus 70 inches. I will clarify that for everybody first thing in the morning. We've asked a few times of headquarters about that specific height, and I believe that they're quite absorbed in all their data right now and getting ready for Houston, that they're not able to answer that question. But tomorrow morning I will phone them and extract that information and send it out to you. One of the key things I want to remind everyone, I'm going to give you exactly what you need to put in that crate and what you should not put in the crate. Often teams have this idea, oh, let's pack the crate as full as we can, put everything in there we can so we don't have to take it with us. I highly recommend you put as little in the crate as possible. Put the robot. If you have to put some batteries in, put the batteries in, but really don't put any more, because what we want is a very simple process where Centerline is going to put on their documentation 1 line that says educational robot, value of X dollars, and the items that are in there. And it's all going to be the same for every single team. If you decide to change the contents in that crate from what the standard is, there could be a potential problem which will hold up the whole process, and we don't want that to happen. And of course, the extra charges from Shepherd once they get their hands on that robot crate. So again, Shepherd is not going to be providing drayage for us for the Ontario robots, because the crates are going directly to Cobo Hall, and they're coming directly back from Cobo Hall through Centerline to you. Another lingering question we had out there was payment authorization form. That form is actually in this document somewhere, right here. So you'll be able to take that from the Google Doc, and hopefully you can see my screen here, which is the payment authorization form. You put your information on there and follow the proper instructions, and then that gives Shepherd the ability to move your robot crate back and forth. And that's mandatory that you do that. And you can just download that document from this Google folder. In there though, as I was saying, you want to make sure that I'm going to go back to it for a second here, that you do not use the GoSigny form from here. You'll see how it says Shepherd. Do not use this one. Please use the other one that's in the Google folder, or the one that was handed to you. And just a couple final keynotes from me at this point before I open it up for discussion. Your robots need to be in Windsor at the absolute latest date of Thursday, this coming Thursday. And when we look at the calendar, I just want to double check before I put numbers out there. Thursday is the 19th. So our target date for you for shipping would be Tuesday the 17th by 5 p.m., which should give plenty of time for it to get to Windsor. I know some of you are in Windsor and you may choose to just take the robots yourself to Centerline in the crates, and that would be fine. I don't see any problem with that. So going back to this form, I think I skipped over a couple of other items here regarding, let me just see, the robot crate. So again, you see the information of the crate, it's all there. You can go further by clicking on these links and getting the information you want from the first headquarters. Mike, is there anything at this point from your perspective that needs to be clarified for teams?
No, like most of it's pretty straightforward with only shipping domestically. The one kind of weird thing is that their example for how to fill in the bill of lading is different than the actual bill of lading they gave us.
And I'll give you an example. Just pull this document up here. I just tried to get our good friends from the Alpha Dogs to take some pictures of the documents they had. And this document here is the one that Mike is talking about. Just trying to load that up. And here it comes. So Mike, what's particularly different about this? Is anything specific you could identify for us?
The biggest thing is that the shipper section we're supposed to sign is in the bottom left-hand corner instead, and they didn't pre-build in any labels for like filling in your team number and stuff like that, or really provide any instruction about it. But we should probably just throw that in there under like the crate, like the size of it. Just looks different, which is a little annoying to follow and fill stuff in. And I couldn't find anywhere on it for filling in the lift gate, but my document's different than even what all you guys got because they sent us an electronic one.
All right, and that's a super good point, Mike, about the lift gate. When you call FedEx, for those that are doing this for the first time, you have to identify and demand the truck with the lift gate. So keeping that in mind, the sooner you call for a FedEx pickup, the better it's going to be your chances of getting that truck with the lift gate, because they just may not be able to get that truck to you by a certain time. So if you wait till Tuesday afternoon to say, hey, I want to pick up, it may not happen, and then you're going to cause complications. Now,
John,
yeah?
We do have a question from Deb from 2013. She wants to know, I'm sure this is a question you might have dealt with, but it's going to come up again,
Sure.
I think. Can we bring our robot home with us? I assume she means from Detroit, from Cobo Hall.
Well, there's you have to apply for an exemption for that and deal directly with headquarters on that piece. So if you connect with headquarters on that, Deb, I'm not sure what the date on that is. It might be past where they're going to just say no at this particular point. And I do want teams to know that we've been working, First Canada's been working on your behalf to try to get headquarters to agree to future plans to do bag and tag to the World Championships. That just wasn't an option for this year. They did try, but they came back with a negative answer on that. So we'll keep pushing them forward.
And we have a second question from Kevin Alley, who wants to know, do you have a FedEx phone number to contact to order this? I believe it's FedEx Freight, isn't it, John?
It's right on the document. Let me see if I go back to that document. Oh, sorry, it was the one that, this bottom one, do not lose. Now this may be, you know, perhaps it's slightly different than, they had a FedEx number somewhere here. Not this one, maybe the other document. Now sometimes when you call FedEx Canada, they're a little bit weird about, we don't really know about this kind of stuff. So you just, all you do is quote them your number that there's a FedEx number that's on your bill of lading, and that's the number that you use to leverage them for anything that we need. Just trying to find that.
John,
yep.
So it's really important when you call FedEx, you got to tell them that it's freight, which is their LTL department. It's completely separate. So if you give the pro number to their normal FedEx, it's not going to work at all. It'll confuse them. Just make sure you get talking to freight first.
All right, so maybe what I'll do tomorrow morning is I'll make sure I find the accurate FedEx number for freight here that will get everyone to the right person, so that when they're contacting them and they can arrange that pickup to go forward. So the local number, basically. I thought I saw that number on here.
John, it was in the email they just sent you and I originally. It wasn't part of the documentation, but I can always send that on to you in a minute.
Okay. Shipping. Let's just see here. You can see I've been going back and forth with headquarters quite a bit on this. Call for your FedEx pickup here out. This is the number right here on my screen, 866-774-6101. Now again, I'm not sure if that goes directly to somewhere local or if that goes back to the United States. But as you can see, specify FedEx Freight, as Mike says. And this is wrong. Number 4 is wrong, everyone, just so you know. You can see through my emails here, it's by the 19th. It needs to arrive by the 19th. Paul, any other questions?
No, that's it right now, John.
Okay. Mike, I'm going to open it up to you if you want to talk about the Slack group a bit. And if you're on your computer, Mike, I could actually give you the screen if you want to go to the Slack group.
Sure, go for it. I have no idea how to do that on my end. So.
Well, okay. So the other piece too is you figuring out what it is you want to show them. So I'm going to make you a presenter somehow.
So while John does that, we tried this last year and it worked pretty well. But Slack's just a nice tool, like a chat and communication for us to talk about stuff both in planning and then while we're down in Detroit as well. Do you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, if you follow the link that John gave you, it'll let you add yourself to this, and we're just asking that everyone include their team number at the end of their name so we can figure stuff out. But there are some channels up at the top here, and I just built some basic ones, but we can add more to it if people want them, about different things we'll want to talk about and plan. And then you can also send direct messages here. Once there's more people, I could have a chat with someone directly to ask them questions, or a group of people. But it's just a very nice tool, both in planning to get there and also while we're down there, if anyone needs help, especially with that shipping checkout time. It's really nice to have people to chat with to figure it out.
Mike, is there a better way to just say add those documents that I've got into the Slack group so everybody goes to one spot?
Yeah, so what I'll do is once you've given me rights to those documents, I'll upload them and pin them to the appropriate like shipping folder and crate construction folder, so people will be able to see them there, and they'll be pinned to the right-hand side of them as well.
Okay, great. I know that one of the pieces that we'll put in there, George Chisholm had created a his own version of the shipping crate construction, and with his own schematics and so on, and those might actually be helpful for some teams interpreting what the crate should be made of and what sizes and so on. A key point on that, some teams out there that are new, you might want to make sure that you reach out to a veteran team that's close by to see if that they can help you with that whole process of the crate. You only have roughly 48 hours from now to get that robot out of your school, and I just appeal to all of you that if you're not sure about going, can you please connect with me, even if you might go but you're not sure, like you're close to it. And the reason why is we have to be prepared to help someone else be on standby. And if we find out at 3 o'clock on Tuesday that you've decided not to go, then there's a real problem with getting the next person to go in terms of giving them enough lead time. So I'd appreciate any communication from you. So any more about the Slack group there, Mike?
I think that's about it. First thing is just get yourself signed up into it. Last year we did it with individual email invites, but I think this link will work a lot better and faster. John, if you could send that out to everybody through the usual email blast, I think that would make it the simplest. And then if you have any questions about it, just contact me either through Slack directly or by email. It's just michael@symbotics.org.
Yeah, the other key thing with the Slack group or an email distribution is to don't hesitate to reach out and ask people questions. We often find that it's at the last minute that people start to do that, and we have a lot of experienced teams here that are willing to share with you ideas and strategies on how to make your experience at the Worlds better. And when the other piece I want to point out is last year's Slack group, try to pay attention to it when you can. Almost every day, take a look at it. I know that, Mike, I don't know how automatic it is at times when we would all get messages from it, but I do know that last year I would ask several questions on the Slack group of key people, and I wouldn't get a response, and that causes problems with the shipping. So please be attentive.
One thing is if people install it on their phone, then it really helps to have it accessible all the time. But it's got apps for iPhone, Android. There's even like a Windows 10 app for it. It's pretty handy, but you've got to kind of get it set up and installed on all your platforms first, and have data in the States to use it.
Mike, I have a question here. I'm wondering if you can post the link in the chat to the Slack in the chat box.
Yep, not a problem. I'll do that right now.
Thanks.
Excellent. And Mike mentioned about if you had data and you're actually in the States. When we're at the World Championships, you'll find that all of Ontario is one big team, and you don't hesitate to throw something out on the Slack group if there's something you need or something you don't understand or where to get it, and everyone will help everyone.
So I just posted a notice from Matt Cipriati from Hamilton that there was a different FedEx freight contact number at the top of the pre-filled bill of lading that was given to us at Champs, so it's in there.
The one that John just quoted, like when I called it, they had to transfer me to freight. It was kind of the FedEx main line, but it got me there. I think either one will work. As long as you keep saying you need freight, you'll get there.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Paul and Matt and Mike, for responding to that. I would just advise that if you haven't done so already, first thing tomorrow morning, you make that call to FedEx. I'm not sure if they're open on a Sunday for you to be able to do that, but I know the other complication some schools will have is going back to administration and asking if they can actually go to the World Championship. So if you're struggling in that area, please let me know so that we can be aware of it, number one, and if there's anything we can do to help out. So Mike, this is something that others might experience. So I just went on to sign into the Slack group from the invite you gave me. And I used my first Robotics Canada email, and it seemed to get confused with my other email that's associated to all the other Slack accounts.
It shouldn't be a problem. I've got some set up through my Gmail and some set up through my Symbotics, and it seemed to be okay. You just got to add that separate one. I've never done it with these links before, though, so I'm hoping it works, and if not, we can get an email list together and send personal invites out, too.
Yeah, so with the whole group that I sent the email out tonight, I'll just go right back into that email and follow up and send you guys the Slack group link now while we're talking, and if Paul can navigate any other questions that might be there.
It's in the chat channel, too, if anyone can see it in there.
I'm not sure. Are they able to cut and paste from the chat channel, or? Oh, I could try that. Yep. Yes, you can cut and paste. So I'll still send it out on an email to make sure, in case somebody was not on the webinar. Are you still there, Paul?
Sorry, yes, I am.
Sorry, I just did not know with the computer, or if you were nodding off from your exhaustive work at the tournament.
No.
All right.
Okay, we're good.
Excellent. So no other questions?
Just the same thing. Can we get that link sent to us? So.
Okay, I'm going to do it right now. Well, if somebody else wants to put forward a question, or Paul or Mike, anything that you want to say.
I just think that information with the crate's really important, especially for new teams getting into this, that you want to be very careful what foot materials you use. We just completely avoid 2x4s or anything like that, 4x4s. Build it as much as you can out of plywood or aluminum angle, something like that. I know Matt from 4039's had a lot of experience with this and helped us out a lot in the past too.
Yeah, and that was some of the specific comments that George put in his document, and I'll make sure that that goes out to everyone too. And as I say, I'm going to send that stuff right away, or the link to everyone.
So it would be good if we get a few people to try that link out and see if it works and figure out how to get everyone invited to it. It'll really make things smoother if we deal with that before everybody goes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm about to hit send to send that out to everyone. So the first few people that could try it and click on it, and then that way before we end the webinar, we'll know for sure. Sorry, Paul, you were going to say?
Yeah, I tried it and it's working for me.
Excellent.
So Deb has a question. Are previous crates still appropriate? I guess if she's gone in the past to the Worlds.
Well, if they follow those guidelines.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything different in the guidelines this year. It's just that I know that in the past teams have, maybe my team, has ignored them and still been able to get our crate through. So it would be a shame if anyone got stuck at the border for a few days and didn't have the robot a chance because it got held up. You never know if it will or it won't. And I wouldn't want to put Centerline in a rough spot of having to deal with us breaking the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's extremely important. As you say, Matt, the last thing you want is for someone to not follow proper procedure, and that be the one that they have at the back of the truck that gets checked. So I'm going to try to send that now. Okay. All right, so I just sent the Slack link to everyone. Apologize to those that already have it or have figured it out. All right, so I've got it. I'm sure everyone else has now.
So John and Mike, we have another question suggestion from one of the people online here. I would recommend you have a sample of the return shipping tag because some teams mix that up with the form going down and the robot doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I will get further clarification from headquarters tomorrow morning on this, but when you go to the World Champs, you're going to redo the paperwork at the World Champs to come back to centerline only. What that does is it actually bypasses, to a large degree, the customs process. So unlike last year, where it crossed the border, it landed in Detroit or wherever it landed to the customs, and then they went through it and they found discrepancies, so they held it up. That process should be eliminated this year, that problem. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
John, have they guaranteed that that's the way we're doing it? It's just going back to centerline and then we're shipping from centerline home?
Yes. So again, you'll have your waybill labels and so on from centerline home once at the championships, and First Canada and centerline are taking care of the cost for going from centerline to Detroit and back to centerline. Okay, Mike, so I'm gonna just be a guinea pig here. So I've just signed up for Slack and it says, great, please check your email. So I'll go to my emails, see if I got my Slack invite. Yep. Says good, Slack. Confirm your email, good. Mike, is there a way to change that name to say 2018 somehow, in case someone else has?
I purposely didn't put it 2018 because I was hoping that this time we'll actually use this group going forward in future years, and then if people, like as we add people to it, they can see the discussions that happened in past years.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Again, if you're joining, Mike has suggested including your team number like 1114, like Michael Duramio 1114 and Adam Bocek FRC 22. I'm going to say it's 2200 because I can't see the end of it.
Paul, I just went backwards to try to add my team number there, and then I realized I don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, Stan has done it perfectly with Stan 2056. Wow. Nice and short and sweet.
Slack's a little weird because they have like full names and then display names.
Right.
I think if we just did just full names and no one put a display name, it'll make things a lot easier.
Yeah.
Mike, just for those that have not used the Slack before, can you give some comments about what are the benefits or some of the things that they might want to look for in there that would be valuable to them?
I think the biggest thing is just being able to have all the chatting in the same place. It just makes it so much easier to have like group discussions and then also direct messages to people all through one platform.
So it would make sense then going forward that I would put anything I want to go out to everyone through the Slack group.
Yeah, as long as we guarantee that every team going has at least one representative in here.
yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions there, Paul?
No, I was going to comment that one of the advantages that we have both in Houston and at Detroit is we'll have at least 2 or 3 Canadians at registration if we need to distribute something or point people in the right direction or hold something for somebody and then so they can pick it up, things like that. So
that'll be helpful. Paul, could you tell it who's at Detroit?
It's myself and George Chisholm, but we may have some others that I don't know about at this point.
Oh, good. That's good.
Houston, we have actually 3.
What? Wow.
Sherry Lynn Koshelski's gonna be there, and my wife is coming to volunteer there as well. So we'll have a few.
Excellent. So again, I'd just like to mention to the audience that if there's, when you go and you look at that tracking sheet that's in that Google folder, which I guess I need to send out to everybody. Or Mike, have you already moved that information over?
I've got some of it there. I'm just working through it, but you have more information than I do. So if you share it with me, I can add stuff in.
All right, I'll do that right now as we're talking, and then that way everyone will have it. Okay. All right, so I just send that to you, Mike, the access to it. So Paul, when you look at the attendees, could you see, is Brad Awad on there?
No.
Okay, that's good to know.
Oh, I can see, and he's not on there. That's what I meant. Sorry, I should have elaborated.
No, that's good. Again, Paul or Mike, do you guys have any other additional insights on what we all might expect when we get to Detroit? Have you heard anything? Do you know any further details around what it's going to be like going from Cobo Hall to the, what is it, Ford Field or something like that?
Ford Field, yeah.
We haven't really heard anything about it. I'm just expecting a lot of bedlam, trying to keep track of all our kids and get them all seated together and back together. Not really sure how we're going to manage it yet.
Yeah. Paul, did you see the documentation from headquarters on Detroit already?
Some of it, yes. But most of the stuff I saw was concerning registration because that's where I'm based.
Okay. Mike, have you received any information regarding the whole event, the agenda, where everything is located, maps?
They've posted their agenda online. And it's nice because you can actually filter to only see FRC events. So it's only a few pages long. It's pretty readable.
They have recommended downloading the First Championship app, which has schedules and agendas and so forth.
Good point. The other piece too, I was wondering about teams that aren't sure, that haven't made arrangements for hotels in Detroit. So, one potential option for people to think about is to try to get just a few rooms in Detroit for your game team, your advanced team, and then try to have the rest of everyone in Windsor and move across. Now, of course, I'm not advising you on what to do. I'm just trying to give you some insight that I know Detroit is pretty busy at that time of year, and there may be some problems with the hotels.
John, we have an additional question, or a point actually, from Kevin Wood. He said, I'm sure you'll remember this. In St. Louis, there was a tornado and our kids were spread out all over the stadium. Having an emergency meetup location inside and outside the venue is a good idea for all teams to plan.
Great idea. And Kevin, thank you for that. I'll just also comment that I went through an experience several years ago where one of the other teacher in addition to me with our team was at the World Championships, and one of us was not in the building, and the one not in the building had the medical records of all the students. And when somebody got very ill and had to go to the hospital, and we did not have access to those records. So my suggestion is 2 copies of all the documentation you should have on a trip, and with two separate people, of course. So these are all good comments that we could put through that Slack group, right? So anybody who has good feedback and wants to add that in, that would be helpful.
Sorry, John, I think you just shared the one individual document with me, not the whole folder. If you give it another whirl, I'll add stuff in.
Alrighty, I'll do that right now. Oh, I see.
Looks like Tibor must have been in the military, because he suggests that that point where people meet up should be called the muster point. But with him, you never know if he's joking.
Well, people would have to muster up the energy to do that. All right.
Just a random point I thought of. I don't know if it matters so much with the bill of lading as it did with the other documents, but last year they told us that we should be photocopying things first and then signing them afterwards, so you had actual ink on each piece of documentation.
That's another good point. So original signatures on every piece of paper.
Stan comments that he always has 3 copies of his medical, one in the stands, one in the pit area, and one on him, which is really a great point.
Excellent.
And Tibor wonders about parking for trailers. Can we park it at the hotel or at Kobo, for example? Do we know?
Well, here's what I'll suggest to you. If you want to send me, stop and think a bit about the questions you might have, like that one, Stan, and just email me. I'll make a grouping of all those questions, and I'll ask them tomorrow morning and then get that information back to you.
Tibor says he's checked with his hotel and they will not allow them to park their trailer there. That's why Tibor is asking about Kobo Hall.
We've been talking with First a little bit, and it seems like they have a lot that we can park at a bit away from it. Not too far, but it seems like it's an unsecure lot, so I don't know how we want to do it or how good it'll be.
Okay, I like these questions going back and forth. Paul, any other ones in the chat box?
That's it for right now.
Okay.
John, I had a question. Would you rather we contact you with questions through Slack or through email?
Well, if you put it in Slack, I guess everybody sees the question, and then you don't have to repeat it, and that question may prompt other questions, right? So I guess through the Slack group, but I do want to ask a group of questions tomorrow morning at headquarters. So at this particular point, if you were to send them to me, and then after tomorrow morning, we just go through the Slack group. Does that make sense?
Yep, works for me.
I'm just going through my notes right now to make sure there's nothing left over from headquarters.
Tibor has another comment. He says, please recommend a manifest containing what they are carrying regarding equipment, etc. over the border. He did that last year. I believe maybe it was Mike or Matt had mentioned about that at an event that we were chatting at, about having something on paper, what the team was carrying when they were crossing the border made things a little easier.
We always carry a trailer inventory with us when we go, like with the items and like how much they're worth and quantity. We've only been asked for it once in all our years of doing this, but it's not a bad thing to have with you.
Yeah, I'll just add to that I've had that scenario happen many times where I've actually, I get to the border and I say, I've got stuff here. I have my list, and they say, go, pull over and get it stamped. And you usually don't want to do that because that might take an hour. It takes that extra time out of your schedule. But when you come back and you don't have it, it could be a major problem. And I've been pulled over twice for that issue where I did not have something stamped, even if I had an inventory. But I mean, just having an inventory is better than none, but having a stamped one would be even better. We leave that up to you. And what we're talking about, everyone, is you've already sent your robot, but we're speaking about your vehicle. When you're going over, you're bringing your tools, you're bringing spare parts and so on. They want to make sure that you're not importing and exporting parts is what this is about.
So we do have a couple more questions, John and Mike. Kevin asks, is there any benefit to sending a list of names to customs immigration ahead of time?
For me, I've heard of people trying that before, but it's never an advantage. It doesn't. They're not going to entertain that until you're there in front of them, as far as I know.
And we have a second one, or a comment and a question. Usually teams have a copy of the waybill going to their destination, Detroit, to file with their documents coming back. Do we need to do this, or does Centerline take care of that?
Centerline will take care of everything you need as far as the shipping, but if you want to add that as more verification of your trip going, or authenticity of you going there for that purpose, other than that, I don't see any reason why you need to worry about it.
And then we have from Tibor again. Will we try to get a photo of all the Canadian teams at Detroit?
Well, that's why we have a Slack group. That's how the Slack group started, actually, was to try to pull people together. And it's very, very difficult to do that. So what we could do, Paul, maybe you have more access than some of us, perhaps. But if we could look at the schedule and try to pick 2 times that might work best, we could put that back in the Slack group and offer it up, and wherever we get the biggest return, we can pick that date and time. But it's usually on the Wednesday, I believe.
Okay, well.
I'll add the poll plug-in to it to make that really easy to go.
Okay. We have a question again. John, do you have a cell number for direct access to you?
I will definitely have that the whole time, and it is 416-606-6934. And I guess I could take back the screen for that, or Paul, if you. Let me see here. I don't even know.
I'll type it in, John.
All right, great, Paul. That's a good idea.
416-606-6934. And it is now in there.
Thank you, Paul. Paul, would you be fine to give your cell number in case somebody needs something regarding check-in?
Sure, I can do that. I'll put that in the chat.
And you want to say it out loud, so I'll type it too.
Sure, it's 905-868-6766, sorry.
Paul, do you want to add both of those into like general and the Slack, and we can pin that message?
Sure.
Paul and John, what time options were you thinking for a possible meetup? Do you want to just get it in like a section of a day, or just a single day?
I'm just trying to think myself when we're busy, is it not so busy? I mean, there's always the issue with the and I mean, I don't know what the weather's going to be like. Any suggestions from you, Mike?
I'm just going to throw a poll up and kind of do like morning, afternoon, evening as the options, and then we can figure it out closer from there.
Okay.
Sure.
We're just going to see if I've got championship information here for people. No, that's not stuff.
Okay, so I have a clarification from Matt Cipriati on that whole point about documentation. He says, crossing at Windsor once, our trailer was directed by a bridge employee into the commercial truck lanes. You do not, in all caps, want to go through these because they will be expecting commercial paperwork, and since you don't have it, since you are not a business, it will cause problems. Go through a regular lane.
Good point, Matt.
So here's the question that I think I can answer. It's from Rob. He says, what is Paul's role in all this? I don't know him. That's why I'm asking. Well, Rob, you will have seen me selling swag at an event or two. I've been at a couple of events. And I'm a first senior mentor like George Chisholm and Annika Pint, Sherilyn Koshelski, Heather Kelso, and Melissa Douglas in Ontario. And so I help support teams whenever I can. And I will happen to be in both Houston and Detroit working registration. So my role, I guess, is to support teams when they're there, the Canadian teams especially, if they need to contact somebody.
Yeah, and to add in that, George Chisholm, and also the fact that you are the lead of the Ask the Expert webinar, so you're very good at webinars.
So that's why I'm taking the questions, I guess, is what it says. So we do have a couple more questions. And one was John, about a clarification from you about picking up your crate or getting your crate sent back to you from Centerline after the event is over. Someone wanted a little bit more clarification on what exactly that you meant by that.
Can you call me back in 20 minutes or so? I'll call you back.
Okay, you're somehow you've gone all quiet and you're not clear.
So are you talking about me?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, somebody was calling in about the webinar, and they wanted information on shipping, and I said, jump on the webinar. So, yeah.
So when the crate goes back to Centerline, you had said that the team has a responsibility to arrange for getting it back from Centerline, and someone was just asking for some clarification about that.
Okay, sorry, Paul. I was reading the email from headquarters that they just sent me now,
Okay.
And there's not much information in there, so I'm going to divert my attention back to you. So sorry, ask that again.
Okay, so the question is, when the crate comes back to Centerline at the end of the event, you had said that teams would need to arrange with Centerline on how to get it back to their school. And someone just wanted some clarification about that.
Yeah, so I will provide on the Slack group the actual details of the step-by-step for that over the next day or so. And part of the reason for that is, I believe when teams go to Detroit, what's going to happen is you're going to just be given the online screen again. You type in your information and it will print out the return documents. Because once the crates get to Centerline, then they just want to be able to turn them over to FedEx, which is typically arranged by the teams, right? So We don't know when you could receive your robot crate back at your school, so that part's going to have to be mitigated through you. So I'll get back to you on that and send that clear information out to everybody in the group.
So we have a crate question that those of you who have built crates might be able to answer a little bit better. It says from Walid, the crate dimensions are 36 by 48 by 54, but it says at the bottom that it can't be more than 4 by 4. How does that work? Is the 4 by 4 mentioning the parts on the bottom where the forks of the forklift go in? Is that the idea?
Absolutely. Exactly the size of the bottom, yes.
So it's not the, so those are like 2 4 by 4s that would go on the bottom so that they would lift the crate off the ground so the forks of a forklift could go in and lift up the whole crate, yes?
Yes, but as Mike was mentioning earlier, do not be careful of the wood that you use. Follow the instructions clearly that are given to you in that document. Do not use 4 by 4 pressure treated wood, for example. What a lot of teams do is they stack plywood together and they cut it into the size of a 4 by 4 and use that.
Okay.
We went out and got a plastic pallet from Uline last year. They delivered in a day, and it's worked really well for us.
And how much did that cost, Mike?
I think it was around $100, but we got a pretty nice one. I think they've got some pretty affordable ones too. We should probably next year look into just grabbing a bunch of them in bulk right before provincials.
Yeah, Mike, if you send me a picture of that, I just want to verify, because I know our warehouse has quite a few crates like that, and they actually throw them out. So I would like to start corralling those for teams. I just want to make sure they're going to be good for cross-border shipping.
So here's a point from Tibor. He says sometimes buses get filled for PDSB teams. I guess, is that Peel? Maybe we can see if they can get on other buses with room. Should we mention this? Each team would have to find out which teams are in the border going. And lastly, it's kind of a little bit scary. He says, now that I have your phone number, I am going to call you all the time.
I created a transportation channel in Slack, and that was pretty much what I thought it would get used for, was teams saying, hey, does anyone have 5 spots on a bus, or I've got 10 spots left on my bus, then kind of coordinate those and fill them up.
So a couple of points from Matt Ciprietti. He makes a point about the plastic pallets are great, and they can build a crate on top. It works very well. And he says often you can find them on Kijiji, or companies sometimes will give them away for free. And Kevin Wood has a question about wood. He says, why not use 4 by 4s? Is it a weight thing? I think the point, John, you were making is that it's hard to find 4 by 4s that are not pressure treated, and part of the rules say that the wood that you use has to be of a certain type. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a lumber war going on with the United States. That's been going on for quite a bit of time, and as we know, the U.S. president is not happy about the free trade agreement. So there's a lot of complexities there, and they are targeting things such as lumber. So when your crate goes across, they will look at it in detail. If there's a problem, they're going to just shut it down right away. And
Eugene points out it's an insect thing as well.
Exactly.
That would be Eugene Porter, Woody Flowers finalist from 4814. Just saying. Another question from Monique Willette. She asks, John, you mentioned that Centerline will do the export of each robot at the border saying education robot value X amount. I don't see anywhere on the forms that we provide our robot value to Centerline or FedEx, nor do we have to provide our bill of materials with our shipping forms. So do we keep only our bill of materials, or actually it's, bill of materials, and only provide it if and when someone asks for it? I guess the bill of materials is the cost accounting worksheet now.
In the past, we've just been advised to put a basic, like we all put the same price of $1,000 USD on it, and that only ever showed up on the commercial invoice, which we're not doing this year. Centerline's doing. So my guess is they're just probably going to put that standard on it for everyone of just $1,000. I think it's really important that as a group we don't throw drills and other random stuff in the crates, because we're going to put Centerline in a rough spot when they're saying these are all just robots and then there's extra stuff in there.
Exactly. So Centerline's going to put, we've already discussed the amount. I can't remember right now. I think they were talking it's either 2,000 or 3,000 times 34 robots or 32 robots. That's going to be what goes across. So what it looks like is it's almost, I would imagine the customs, it's going to look like, 34 robots going across for educational purposes. But I would definitely clarify that and send something out on Slack regarding that. But you really don't have to worry about it. And if you look at the way we've asked you to fill out the bill of lading, it doesn't really require you to put a value on it.
John, I think it would be really good if we could find some way to arrange with Centerline where we're emailing them our return address information and it's all kind of set up ahead of time instead of us each trying to deal with them and FedEx on the way back.
Yeah, and I think in respect of Centerline too, right? But that process is so that we don't have 32 teams trying to connect with Centerline. So I'll clarify that and I'll get something out to everyone.
Adam's question, is there a detailed schedule for the Detroit event yet? I'm not sure exactly what does he mean. I don't know if you mean game schedule, Adam, but there's a basic agenda with stuff that's going on every day, and a lot of that stuff is getting filled out.
Yeah, and maybe he's referring to load-in times and so on. So that is posted already. I think they were considering moving the time up a little bit. In other words, giving you earlier access, but I'll have to verify that.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about, load-in times and so forth. Kevin L is asking about a conference schedule. I think, Kevin, if you download the app, the First Championship app, it'll have more information in there about the conference schedule.
Really good for teams to download because there's a lot of great stuff besides watching just the robots.
Yeah, and you can put your own schedule in there, customize it, so that's good. Eugene asks, are we all using the same weight as well, and should there be a maximum number of batteries to ship with the robot?
We've always just put 400 pounds and the max dimensions, the 48 by 48 by 60, even if we're undersized from that.
And how many batteries do you typically ship, Mike, with the robot crate?
We never ship any of them. We just bring them across the border in our trailer.
And that's, I was going to suggest exactly that. The less you put in there, the better.
Rob Stellick writes, I think maybe Rob, you joined a little bit late because I think John did mention something about this. He says, I don't see a Shepherd, and there are a lot of people that joined after. You might have mentioned this, John, not just Rob. I don't see a Shepherd Expo form in my package. Do we need that this year since we are using Centerline? So maybe it's a good time to reinforce.
Yes, really good. And Don, if you're thinking about the consignee form, no, you don't use that. You use only the Centerline. What's going to happen is Centerline is dropping the robots off at Cobo Hall and picking them up from Cobo Hall. The one piece I don't know is how do the robots get back from Ford Field to Cobo Hall? So you're only using the Centerline forms is the answer to that.
The one thing you do have to fill out for Shepherd is the credit card form, though. That's got to be filled out and scanned and sent to them.
So Rob says he doesn't see the credit card form, but Rob, I think that's the Google group. John, I think that's in the Google group document you're going to send out.
Well, yeah, Mike's transferring it now, but if you guys can see it, and you would actually Again, in the documentation I gave you, it's incorrect because that's what happens. But here's the one I was emailed. So Mike's got access to this. So this is the wrong one. This is the one you have. So this is the correct one here.
So there's two separate things. There's this consignee form, which is like an address label that goes on the robot crate. We need to make sure we're all using the one that says centerline that John's showing now. The other thing you need is there's a Shepherd form that you fill out for weight if you're overweight, but we all have to fill it out with credit card information and put it in. And I've actually put this in shipping already. If you look at, there's the big document, the 2018 Championship Shipping and Drayage Information Package. In there, one of the pages is the form they need to fill out.
Okay, so if I go to the Slack group, Mike, I can show everyone. Oh, there it is. In shipping.
Yep, and I posted a bunch of documents if you scroll up to the top. That one there.
So even though this one has the Shepherd consignee forms, which is wrong, at the end it has this payment form here.
Yep, there you go.
And this is the correct one.
So we have another comment and question from Matt Ciprietti. It says the champ schedule on the first website says that team loadout from Cobo ends at 3 p.m. Matches at Cobo end at 4:30, and at Fort Field they end at about 8:30. Does this mean our pits have to be loaded out to our buses, trailers by 3 p.m.?
Sorry, it's just getting power plugged for my computer.
That's okay.
So Paul, read the last part again. It has to be loaded out from Fort Field by what time?
By 8:30, the matches will end at Cobo Hall at 4:30 and 8:30 at Fort Field. Does this mean that our pits have to be loaded out to our buses and trailers by 3 p.m.?
That's a good question.
I'm just trying to remember what had happened in Houston,
right?
And I did a walkthrough before I went over to Minute Maid Field, and yes, all the pits by the time I left the building had been loaded out, but I don't know if that's the same with Cobo Hall. Yeah, so Matt says his issue is the bus driver hours, so you have to plan around that, which is
Sure.
Absolutely true.
Really good question. I'll definitely get the answers for you on that. I'm just taking notes here.
And we have a note from the shipster that says we're doing a great job. I believe he means about the information, not the actual performance that you and I and Mike are putting on, but we'll take any compliments you have.
Who's the shipster?
I have a feeling it might be that AWOD guy, but I don't know for sure. So Kevin Wood mentions that they need two drivers in order to meet the driver hours with the loadout times. And I know that was kind of our situation very often in St. Louis, I believe. Well, at least getting back to here, we need two drivers. Yeah, one will meet the bus in Windsor. Yeah, I guess they're traveling a little further.
Wow.
Kingston.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so Kingston's pretty far.
I remember doing that for St. Louis.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just making notes here. Any other questions, Paul?
Yes, actually, one just popped up. Does the credit card form have to be faxed to Shepherd and Centerline and attached to the crate? Well, I don't think the credit card form would be going to attach to the crate, but is
Yeah,
it going to Shepherd or is it going to Shepherd and Centerline?
no, it wouldn't go to Centerline at all. I'm going to go back to this document.
While you're doing that, maybe Mike can remember if load out or load in at Cobo Hall is a first come, first serve, or if there's a schedule, or do they need to book a specific time?
So I was just going back. It says that you must fax or scan that form to Shepherd only.
Okay.
Now go over that last question, Paul.
Is load in at Cobo Hall first come, first serve, or is there a specific time that teams will get, or do they need to book those times? Or actually, then Adam has posted here some information about that, load information and a location to find that. So I'm going to just copy that and put it in the chat.
Excellent. Thanks, Adam.
And also in
crowdsourcing.
Yeah. There, it's also in the Slack under shipping. So, sorry, the shipster is not Brad Awatt. It is Richard Yasui, and he says you should have known that, John.
Yeah. So, thanks, Richard, and thanks, Adam. Here's the document on my screen that Adam nicely sent us here, and it gives you all the details, pre-staging, and there is your route for reaching Cobo Center. What it looks like loading into the Hershey Center.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if at the end of this, if it's going to tell us about how to close out. No.
I will say that at Houston we had issues with security guards not understanding that where people were loading in, including companies like Boeing, they were on their case because they didn't have registration badges where they couldn't actually get them until they could get in the building to go to registration. So just be aware that there might be some glitches since it's a new event, a new location.
Good point, and I remember that chaos. The first year they required the registration badges.
So Shifa has asked a question that I thought I had typed in my answer to, and she's wondering if I'm ignoring her, which of course is not true. She would like to know, did you say, John, that the robots would take 2 weeks after the competition to get back to us from Centerline?
What I said was that on Monday, let's look at the calendar on my screen. So on this Monday here, the 30th, they will be picked up by Centerline and brought right back to Centerline in Windsor. And then through the coordination of Centerline and you, which I'm going to facilitate, I'm going to give you that information on that process. That'll begin the shipping back to your school. So theoretically, you could have your robot back by Wednesday the 2nd or 3rd, which is huge because sometimes it takes 2 months. And hopefully that answers your question, Shifa.
Yes, she says it does. Thank you. And she promises to buy more swag next time she's at an event.
apparently she needs to buy it from you, Paul, because the other swag lead is doing very well, I hear.
Yeah, yes, this is true. Being replaced, I believe.
All right, so I'm leery of time for everyone. Just wondering if there's any last minute questions, Paul.
We have a couple last ones. Is there a load-in schedule for each individual team? And I think Matt Ciprietti said it's a free-for-all like St. Louis. I assume they're going to line people up along those streets as they did in St. Louis and just get in as quick as you can.
Loading doors open at 11.
Yeah, 8:11. We had a demo for our robot. Tibor says we have a demo for our robot after Worlds, and we received it for the 3rd week after. So he's hoping that he will get his robot. So I guess that's what he was saying in the past, that they were able to get it within 3 weeks. And Adam posts a link with complete event information, and I will post that in the Slack, or unless Adam's already done that. And that is our last question that I see, John.
Okay, so you can start to see how important this Slack group is, how much information, valuable information is there. And if they ever need to get a hold of Paul Keenan at any time, they have his phone number in there.
I'm going to be in the pool in Houston tomorrow, so don't bug me. I'm going to be enjoying 29 degrees Celsius weather.
Good luck getting to Houston. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Mike. And thanks, everyone else, for contributing to this and helping us navigate it. I will make sure I call headquarters first thing in the morning and try to extract all that information that you guys are asking, and I'll send that out, post it through the Slack group, I guess. Go from there. So thanks again, everyone. Paul, any last minute questions? Or are we good to go?
Are we posting this recording, John?
I think so, because I believe there are some people that have missed it already.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Really good. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
No problem.
If you post it in the Slack group, like the link, then I can direct everyone to the Slack group, I guess.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Good night.